The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters.
Hello and welcome back to the Potty Plotters Plotcast podcast. This is episode 49 and I'm Elaine.
And I'm Julia. And this one's going out just before Christmas, isn't it, Elaine?
Yeah.
So we want some jingles, please, Gareth.
Yeah, and...
I'll see what I can do.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And what else? I like little sort of ditty thingies that make it very Christmassy. You know, like they do on the radio and the telly.
Yeah, we have to pay for those, though.
Okay then. Well, don't do them then, Gareth, thank you.
No.
But, well, here we are, episode 49, nearly Christmas, and it's all very exciting.
Yes.
Here we are, not in the wet weather outside, but we're at producer Gareth's house.
Yes, because producer Gareth does not like to be out in the wet or the cold or the snow or the rain or the wind. Or...
Oh, no, I can do the wind.
All right, okay.
Oh, Julia can do the wind, but that's another story.
I didn't think we got any Brussels this year.
No, disaster. Carry on, Elaine.
So what I was going to do, I don't know if either of you two ever used to watch Bottom.
Yes.
Do you remember
with Rick Maynard?
Yeah. Do you remember the Christmas one where they unwrapped? It's another Brussels sprout. I was going to do that. We had some baby rainbow carrots this week, which my other half decided she didn't like, and one of the white ones do resemble parsnips. They don't taste like parsnips, obviously. They taste nice. And I was going to wrap each of those up and go, look, I've done the Christmas meal for you. But it would take too long.
Well,
and I'm also not very good at wrapping.
Well, I would say on that note, Gareth, practice makes perfect.
No, it doesn't.
And
It looks like a disaster zone.
No, I'm going to teach you. Did I tell you that I've been on a wrapping course once?
What, like
wrapping? Or is it using paper and sticky tape?
What are we doing this for? Shall we just carry on?
Yeah, we're meant to be talking about allotmenting and gardening, aren't
Oh, are we?
So,
Oh, right,
yes,
okay
yes.
then.
Well, I know that a few new people have found us. So we've
Yeah.
got Charlotte now listening in Yorkshire.
Lovely.
Yorkshire.
And,
And
I don't think they talk like that. Do they?
I'm not very good on accents,
No.
so I won't try it again. But people are listening into us, Elaine. And if they want to get hold of us, what do they do?
Well, it's funny because you see,
Do you want me to do it?
Yes, please, Gareth.
Okay, just for Christmas, if you're on social media, you can go to Facebook, Instagram, and X, which is formerly known as Twitter, and you'll find us at Potty Plotters. Sometimes I update TikTok, and you'll find us at The Potty Plotters. You can email us, naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk, or you can check out the website, pottyplotters.uk.
The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters.
We do have people email us and we love the emails, don't we? We love it when people get in contact with us because we do get some very, very funny things through the emails.
And talking of which, Keith Sandel has been back in touch again with his giant loofah.
Yes.
I think it's moved from a big one to a giant one.
Yeah.
And his question was, what do I do with it for Christmas?
Elaine will teach you how to wrap it, Keith. Don't worry.
Because I've been on a course for learning how to wrap. So, yes, actually, well, what I would do is just literally take off the skin, so it is like an eggshell, so you can peel it, and then take all the seeds out, put those into little envelopes, and give everybody a packet of seeds for next year. And then with the loofah, you can either cut it in half, cut it into quarters, leave it whole, depending on who it's going to go to, put a little bit of string or ribbon round the top, stick some bubble bath with it, and then give it somebody on Christmas Day, particularly if you're going to somebody's house for lunch or they're coming to you, and there's always that person, isn't there?
Well,
always.
What, the one that needs the bath?
No, the one who always gets out the photographs of their grandchildren, their children, and it used to be the holiday photos. Now it's moved to, I'm going to get my phone out and show everybody this person who is the best person in the whole world who has done this, who has done that. They're just so boring. Well, bore everybody, Keith, how you grew your loofah.
I think the most impressive, I know you've told him to cut it up, but I think it would be impressive if you actually got a big wrapped one. That would make your eyes water at Christmas.
That's where you put it.
Anyway.
This is the most I've ever said on this podcast, isn't it?
I know.
It is, yeah. It's got to stop, Gareth. A threesome on a podcast? Oh, no, not having that. We are going to go over some of the things and people that we've spoken to in the past, aren't we?
Yes, Elaine, we're going to catch up and go over some of the episodes that we've recorded over the past year. And first of all, I think we've got a friend of ours that, we call him a friend. He probably calls us stalkers or something, doesn't he? But the lovely Jonathan Moseley.
It doesn't seem so long ago, does it, that we spoke to Jonathan? It was way in episode 7 in March. But it did make me smile, and it was so cold then. So not a lot has actually changed, but he gave us advice as to how to decorate the house from things that are in the garden.
This morning, I've just been having a little look what's happening in the garden, and it's great to see those emblems of springtime giving us some hope, some optimism at this time of year.
Already we're looking forward. That's the beauty of gardening, isn't it? And growing flowers and vegetables. You're always looking forward.
I think that's right. All gardeners are optimistic. Some people say, we have to be a little bit crazy because we're out in all weathers doing things. But, the lovely thing about gardening is, and gardening be growing vegetables, growing flowers as I do, growing a mixture, herbs, whatever it is, you've always got a job to do, haven't you? I know I've got friends who sometimes say, I hate these winter months after Christmas. It's so boring. You can't do a lot. Not if you're a gardener. There's always masses and masses to get out there and do.
Well, we've been collecting all our leaves and we're getting ready for the leaf mulch so we can put it down for next year, put it all in the bags at the bottom of the allotment so nobody can see it. But Jonathan, at this time of year, it's boring inside our house. That's no detriment to my husband, obviously. But it's dull inside when actually I do like a lot of flowers around. Now, obviously, we've got the bulbs coming up for the spring, but also I've got a twisted hazel and I haven't been to the hospital for that.
You've not seen anyone yet?
No, not yet. But I like twisted hazel.
Try a cold compress, it helps. I can remember, I've been lucky enough to already have a look at your twisted hazel, Elaine, and I've admired it from a safe distance. But chop a little bit of it back during these winter months and bring it indoors. And I'm name dropping here now, but I was working with Alan Titchmarsh last week, and he was quite impressed because I showed him my pink pussy willow, and he was so bowled over by it. He said, "Jonathan, I've not seen a pink pussy willow before." So I said, "Next time, Alan, I'm going to bring you a bit. I'll dig you a bit up and share it." And it's looking radiant in the garden at this time of year, Julie. It really is.
And he's still on the telly with Alan. Do you know Alan? We know Alan, don't we?
Yeah, we met Alan, yeah. He was surrounded by security as well, wasn't he? Yeah, we got through though, didn't we?
We did. Yeah, we're there, aren't we? And it's great that Jonathan is so busy. I mean, he's been at nearly all of the RHS shows, decorating the entrance gates, the areas that most people can see. And he also then does the demonstrations there. He is such a wonderful, talented person. If anybody's never heard of Jonathan Moseley, international floral designer, then look on our site and see if you can find him. But listen to episode 7. That's what I would say.
If you'd like Elaine and Julia to come to a talk for your group, get in touch. naughtycorner@pottyplotters.uk.
Well, it's fair to say, Elaine, that we don't get through one week without mentioning the weather.
And it's one of those things that makes a huge difference to everything that we do, both on the plot and off the plot. And that's why we're here, both of us looking straight direct at Gareth, producer.
Yeah.
Why, were you expecting a weather person at this point?
We were, yeah, we were expecting. You said,
Well,
I'll get you a weather person to talk about that. And I just want to say, are they all frightened of us, Gareth?
Well, I tried both of them that are in my phone.
You've got people in your phone?
Yeah.
Blimey.
It's a big phone. And one of them ignored me. The other one referred me to his boss and then ignored me. So I thought, okay, it can't be that difficult, can it? So I'll take a look at what's happened on the weather. When we started this, if you remember, way back at the beginning of the year, it was freezing to the point where when we were recording, we were in multiple layers. We had little heaters on.
Yeah.
Things were chattering that weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
Unlike. So I think let's take a look at what we've done. So it was a little bit cold. We've had a little bit of snow, a little bit of rain. We've had storms. it's been a bit warmer than it was supposed to, a bit colder than it was supposed to. It's been a bit windier. It's been a bit gustier at times. It's thrashed it down. We've had snow the other week. We've had frost. There you go. There's a look back at the weather. It's basically been a typical British year. I'm a qualified meteorologist now.
Oh, can you try better
No.
next year?
What do you want? The year before, where it was basically like a desert outside.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, I like that. I'd rather have it cold, and but no rain, please. Can I book a bit of rain?
You think you can book the weather? Do you think this is? It's a podcast.
Okay, well, who else have we been talking to then?
Well, you got a bit starstruck, didn't you? Or a little bit gooey-eyed over the lovely...
Gooey-eyed?
Yeah.
Jeez, I'm not 12.
Well, you were after we came off this episode, weren't you?
I was, yeah, because we've been talking to our friend... Again, I'm not sure if he would class us as his friend,
No.
other than a nuisance or stalkers. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But Rob Smith, back in episode 8. Now, for those of you who don't know Rob, he is, well, how would we describe him? I would say that he's creative. He's a journalist.
Yes.
He writes every month for the Kitchen Garden magazine.
Yeah.
He's got a fabulous allotment over in his garden now.
He also writes for lots of other magazines and press.
Yeah.
And he's been on the telly, Bobs.
Yeah. And that's why we like him, because he's one of those who talks like from Yorkshire. He talks how it is,
Yes,
and he says it how it is.
And also, we know that he started out actually on a allotment site, so he knows how it is in the kind of allotment community and all the challenges we face there, as well as all the highlights that we've got from an allotment as well. So,
And what I liked about his interview was that he goes way back and he starts to tell us all about how he learned all about the soil, and he even talked about problems with the weather.
Oh, that's a bit of a theme, isn't it?
I started with my granddad. So I think it's one of those things where a lot of us of different ages started with grandparents or parents that had bigger gardens. So my grandma and granddad used to have a great big council house with this huge, great big gardens at the back, which he just turned into like a mini allotment. So when my mum and dad were working and we used to stay with them, like in the day when we were little kids, they used to get us as basically free slave labour to go and catch cabbage white butterflies and pick the slugs off and everything. So I used to love it. That's where it all started, really.
We know that you were once a Virgin Atlantic flight attendant.
Trolley Golly.
Yeah. Was your job compatible with having an allotment? Because we often find people come along and we say that sometimes it's not the right time. So was being a flight attendant compatible with allotmenting?
I think it was a bit of a challenge, to be honest. So if I'd go away, say I go to San Francisco or LA or somewhere on a Monday, I wouldn't get back till Thursday night. So in the middle of the summer, the allotment has to basically fend for itself. So it was all about mulching, all about getting the soil right, adding the manures, adding the compost so that they were as water retentive as they could be. Now, don't get me wrong, it used to be, it was all clay, the allotment. So in the winter, it was like a quagmire and it never dried out, but it helped in the summer. So you have to be brutal. If they didn't fend for themselves, they died. So you soon realise that your courgettes and everything were fine, but your things that need a bit of mollycoddling are perhaps better at home because you tried and they died and and you just sort of like got on with it and grew what you could, really.
But the thing is, there's nothing sexy, is there, about allotmenting? And yet you've managed
Have you not seen
to...
Jim down the road? 84 with his screen vest on. What lady would say no?
Hey, we've seen some sights down our site, I can tell you. How did you first get noticed? Because you do not fit the normal trend of allotments.
When I started on mine, it was that era in the late 90s, early noughties, remember when Hugh Fearnley-Whitting's store was about,
Yeah.
and River Cottage had just started, and it was amazing. It was almost like you had the Good Life programme years ago, and then all right, it was a sitcom, but it got people inspired. But then there was nothing else really.
Yeah.
You got all your Delia Smiths and all the rest of it, but it was all about cooking. And there was nothing about growing your own. Even Gardener's World, it was all about growing pansies and roses and agapanthus and all that. And then Hugh Finley Whittingstall came along, and it was a case of, well, do you know what? You can grow this in your garden, or go down the hedgerow and get some from over next door's fence that's bobbing over the fence and all the rest of it. That's when I just moved back up to Sheffield, and I was in a flat, and it was a first floor flat, and I was thinking, I haven't got a garden. I'd always grown stuff, and I thought, well, what can I do? And every day I used to drive past the allotment, and I was thinking, well, why don't I go for an allotment? And at the time when I went, the site that I went to, half of them were not used. So all the ones from the road halfway up the plot, the farmer used to use them just as a field and put potatoes in every year just to keep them cultivated, to stop them going to rack and ruin. So when I got there, this old fella Ken, who used to run the allotment, had a big old 6-foot cane and was measuring it out down the field and stabs a cane in, piece of string, and he went, there you go. And I'm like, oh, right, what the bloody hell do I do with that? So you think, right, okay, gonna have to look into this. So I started getting magazines. It was all right because I'd done stuff with my granddad, and I used to grow like in my old house and stuff, but an allotment's totally different.
And Rob has now gone on to write a book which will be out in March next year, so get ready for a signed copy, and no doubt he will probably, I would have thought anyway, send us one, do you reckon?
Do you think so?
Well, it's too late for Christmas.
We're not far away, are we? We could go and fetch it if you like.
Oh, now you're talking.
Well, amongst some of the other lovely people we've met this year, we had the privilege of talking to Lee Norbury.
Oh.
Now, he's very local to us, isn't he, Elaine?
He is, and in episode 18 we popped out to see him as he was preparing for the show of the year again, which was RHS Chelsea Flower Show over in London, and he was working there at that time with James Doran Webb.
I've been a gardener my whole life. Started at 14, 15 years old, developed my lovely little business into what it is today, looking after people's gardens, landscaping, one-off bespoke jobs. Through that, a while ago, a friend got a job at Chelsea. Last year I got invited again to go and do a specific job on a stand on one of the show gardens on the corner plot. It's gone from there, and met James Doran Webb last year because we were neighbours, built up a friendship, started looking after everything that he'd got last year for this year's show, and then grew into what it is now and the insanity that is Chelsea.
But you said that you started around the age of 14 or something similar, so you've been doing this all your life. How do you know all the proper names and things of plants?
So I'm not formally trained. I didn't go to university or anything like that. It's life training. I was lucky enough to work on a nursery as a young lad, so you very quickly get that knowledge, and it was pretty specific at the time. It was herbaceous, it was bedding plants. Then start looking after gardens and designing gardens even as a young lad, giving them ideas. I didn't know everything at all, but in gardening there can be too many set rules. We all have failures. Sometimes a plant doesn't work in a situation, and that's where you gain more knowledge of right plant, right place. I read a book 25 years ago that called that Right Plant, Right Place, and it does give you ideas, and it gives you even more, I don't know, brain power, and just you learn. It's just self-taught learning. I don't know the name of every plant. I don't know the name of every shrub, but usually by waving my arms about and describing something, I can get across what I'm after. And even in my van today, there's cuttings off my hedge, so I can go to the customer and go, I think you should use this and this.
Yeah.
And there's not many people who do that. I am different, and that's what's worked with James at Chelsea, because he's got very specific ideas, and it's all off the cuff. We've got a plan. We've got an overhead plan of what it should look like.
And believe it or not, this year Lee is showing at RHS Hampton Court Palace and also RHS Tatton. So going on to bigger and definitely better things than years before.
You there, you said this year is showing at
No, I mean
next
that's
year.
it. Yeah.
Because we're still at this is the Christmas episode, remember?
It is. It's just I've got all my ears all muddled up because it's sort of the end of the growing season as we know it.
Yeah.
I refer to that as now last year, which is this year, and next year, which isn't.
You do confuse me. You are very confusing. Now, when we went to Chelsea back in May, and you can catch up on episode 19 for this one, we did talk to some people who were truly inspirational. And I have to say, I was a bit besotted with Mark Gregory's plot that he did there. When we say plot, what I'm talking about is the show garden.
Yeah.
But it was effectively everything that I would dream of. It's like got a kitchen in the garden, a veg plot. It was beautiful. It was full of perennial flowers. It was everything I wanted my garden to be.
This has been in my head for a while. People love their detail of my gardens. People really engage, and I really like. I regard these gardens as theatre with plants, and I've tried to create a setting, so a seasonal kitchen, an old wall garden belonging to a small boutique hotel that has a fine dining experience, and the hotel have built this so that the diner can actually reserve this and have a private party. The chef comes down and actually cooks for you and your guests in this private space. And really, for the first time in the history of Chelsea, we are going to cook every single day, and we're going to crop from the garden. We're actually going to take vegetables out. We're going to make pickling. We're going to pumice materials. We're going to make sauces. We're using a fantastic sustainable chef called Sam Buckley, who is into foraging and into vegetables and growing. He loves it. He's in love with the garden already. And we're going to basically do that and literally serve a full lunch service.
So they'll be going out and just selecting, the chef will be going out and selecting what is ready, really, to accompany that.
Yeah, the thing is, Sam, we've worked with Sam, and he's just absolutely the right chef for this garden. He completely gets it. I've been to his restaurant. He's had all our plant lists, and it's a comprehensive list, and he's done the research. But since he's come down last night, he's looked at things that we've put in, extra things, and he's just like, oh my goodness, I didn't think I'd have this, I didn't have that. And he's so excited, he's changing the menus. So literally, he said he's in chef heaven, is what he is. But for the public to actually witness a top flight chef cut and then talking to them about what chefs want from vegetables. He's not about big vegetables, it's about, tips and flowers and edible flowers and companion flowers, and so much stuff in here that I've really put in. And, to see the chef genuinely excited, genuinely is really, really up for this. I think it's a spectacle for the public.
Last year when we came, we were banging on, Elaine and I, my Oppo that's somewhere stuck in that big marquee over there. But we were banging on about where are the edibles, and we were kind of scouting around looking for them. Well, they're full on your plot, aren't they? And how does that fit with Chelsea Flower Show? Because everyone thinks flowers, but actually, we always say vegetables are beautiful. Some of the flowers on the broad beans and all the colours that the vegetables have got, but you've also got a lovely planted perennial area as well up here. So how does it fit, and will it be able to meet all the criteria?
Well, I think it meets it and then some. Never as fresh food and well-being and finances and cost of living crisis and grow your own. It's never been more relevant. And most of the gardens that come here understand that. And they actually, I think, all my gardens for the last, the Wensleydale garden and the Lockkeeper's garden all had vegetables in. But they were theatrical. This is a real functioning space. And I've really tried to be as authentic as I can with the vegetables. I've labelled everything, because if you're staying in that beautiful gardening hotel, everything would be labelled. Yes. So that is for the theatre, but that's actually trying to get the message across. No, I think it's actually a bang on message. I think the guys in the marquee will come out, they love it, and I think vegetables are beautiful anyway. Actually,
yes, they are.
But when you start to play around with them, why can't they sit in with other planting?
The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters.
But the funniest bit of the interviews that we did at Chelsea might have got us into a lot of trouble had it not been for Gareth, because he had to cut bits out. I've gone sort of quiet, like we're going to get into trouble.
There's a lot on the cutting room floor, isn't there?
Yeah, and maybe we'll get banned from Chelsea this next year, if we ever get that far, I don't know. But what a laugh. And it's behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about. And in particular, it was when we met Steve Backshaw. Now then, Steve was not what we expected, and I don't think we were what he expected. But all I can say is, when he joined in about the conversation over to Julia, because she really did drop a clanger.
Did I really? No, I was just discussing your great tits.
You might have a female blue tit coming back to the nest every 8 minutes and, foraging, going out, finding caterpillars. It's another reason why it's so important to have the right kind of plants in your garden that are going to have those caterpillars on them. And I know gardeners hate them, but at the same time, vitally important. All of these wild mothers and fathers are going about their business in our space, and we have the opportunity to make it better for them. And I think, as someone for whom nature has been the most important thing in my life, it's been the thing that gives back to me over and over and again, far more than I ever put in. And I think that, I have the opportunity here in a small way to spread that message to so many people who are already gardeners. I mean, it's perfect.
You are infectious, it's fair to say. I mean, that's not of anything particular. But
post-COVID times, that's not what you were supposed to be saying.
But you are infectious, and I'm just hoping that we'll be able to spread the word to other people, perhaps who haven't got a big garden, perhaps who've just got containers. Nevertheless, they can help with all of the insects, the pollinators, etc., that could actually go to their little pots out there.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I'm lucky I have a garden, but a lot of people don't. It is important to know that if you've just got a window box, or if you've got a plant pot on your front door, that, what you choose to put in that makes a difference. That is, hands down, the most fun interview I've ever done.
Anyway, I don't think we'd get through this episode now, Julia, unless we mentioned Mr. Nematode.
Oh, Chris Holden.
Yeah, Mr. Toad. Now, he's everywhere, isn't he? Yeah. He's another one that appears at all the RHS shows.
Well, when you say he's everywhere, it's because we find him, Elaine. That's why he's everywhere, because we intentionally seek him out, don't we?
We do, yes.
Because he's a lot of fun, but he's also there promoting one of the things that we use on the plots, and we're a big fan of, and there's so much fun to be had around this. So, we caught up with him earlier in episode 20.
The nematode is basically just a parasitic worm. It's a microscopic parasitic worm. In this case, lives in the soil. Basically, there is around about 12,000 different types of nematodes, and the ones we just use for controlling slugs is just one of them.
Chris, not all nematodes are good, are they?
No, the ones we use are the good guys, but because you get nematodes in lots of different things, you can get nematodes in oil and stuff like that, and people sometimes worry that we're using or introducing nematodes that are not good, but we only use nematodes that actually are already in the soil or around anyway, so we're not introducing something that is not already there.
The way I've described them when we've been on air is that we're sending in the good guys, aren't we, to defeat the bad guys?
Yeah, but basically, we can't call them the bad guys, but it's just a natural way to control them. So it's just creating a natural balance between the pest and the nematode, really.
And the nematode isn't a toad?
No, it's not a toad. I do get called Mr. Toad sometimes, but it's not a toad. No, it isn't, no.
So, if you want to hear all of the interviews, why not go back over all of the episodes? You could sort of excuse yourself, couldn't you, from the dinner table after everybody's eaten, when the washing up wants doing, and just say you've got something urgent to listen to. And then bed yourself down on the comfiest chair, quick, before everybody else.
With a box of chocolates.
Oh, my word, now you're talking. And some homemade gin, not that we're going to mention gin again today, but that's what you could do, isn't it? Stick your headphones on and be ignorant.
And we get better the more you drink.
The biggest thank yous, though, go to everybody who's listening. I cannot believe that so many people have downloaded our chats, because that's what they are, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But thank you to everybody, and also to poor old producer Gareth.
Yeah, there's only 2 other men who suffer like Gareth, aren't there?
Are there?
Our husbands.
My husband doesn't suffer because he likes it when I'm not there. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. What about yours? Do you remember what he looks like? Shall we draw him? Like an E-fit.
That would be funny, wouldn't it? Like a Pictionary game. Yeah, come on then, let's do it. It's Christmas after all.
After all, put them jingles on now, Gareth.
The Plotcast podcast with the Potty Plotters is an Amberland Media production.